A few weeks ago, I was sitting across from a client, the business owner, making right around $800,000 a year, has a CPA he's worked with for over a decade, financial advisor managing his portfolio, and an estate attorney set up a trust a few years back. Now, by every normal measure, this guy looked completely covered. Then we sat down and actually looked at the whole picture together for the first time. Now, the income was there, but the structure wasn't. That gap between what he was earning and what he was actually keeping, building, and protecting, that turned out to be the most expensive thing in his financial life. Here's my honest advice. What actually happens at this income level is different. There's a tax complexity that's different. There's investment vehicles and options that are different. The mistakes are just different, and they cost at a very different level. See, it 500,000 plus bad decision doesn't just cost you thousands, it costs you hundreds of thousands. In 2026, specifically with the tax environment changing, planning windows are closing, and the cost of inaction never been this high, this conversation is more important than ever. That's what this video is about. Not to make more, but how to actually keep it, structure it, and make it work the way it should at your income level. Truth number one, your income, it got complex faster than your financial strategy did. See, most people at 500,000 plus of income, they didn't get there overnight. The income grew, the equity comp got added, the business started generating real profit. And at every stage, they started adding another advisor, another account, another product, but they never stepped back and asked, is any of this working together? And that's not a criticism. It's just what happens when life moves faster than your planning does. And here's the reality. To make this kind of money, you're busy, you're focused, and some of these things can be a bit of an afterthought. When we meet someone new at this income level, their financial plan and picture typically looks a bit like this, where they have the financial things. You know, they might have some real estate. They've got business or equity comp. They've got cash, investment accounts, retirement accounts. There's taxes, there's estate planning, and there's so much more that starts to come out of that. And what happens is over time, they've been hiring people to do these different things. But here's the reality. They're stuck in the middle. And it's all flowing through them. They're in the crossfire. They're trying to decide what my CPA is telling me and my advisor is telling me and my attorney's telling me. Are they all even working together? There's no integration. This can cost folks a fortune. Tax is the biggest example of where that pops up. And that's a great lead into truth number two. You're probably overpaying in taxes every single year, but it's not your CPA's fault. Now, this surprises most people, not because they didn't know they were paying a lot in tax. They do. It's because they assume that their CPA is handling it. However, the problem is their CPA is doing exactly what you hired them to do, file an accurate tax return, which is not the same thing as a tax strategy. There's no tax planning in that. And that gap at this level is often massive. I actually own a tax firm. I see this firsthand with our people. They get swamped from January till April 15th doing accurate tax returns. There is not margin to stop and say, hey, I think Tom is missing this opportunity. Deborah is really costing herself. Let's let them know they should be doing XYZ different. Unfortunately, that's not exactly how that works. Here's our secret sauce for tax planning and tax strategy. We overlay the tax return and the balance sheet. That exercise uncovers a magnitude of tax savings opportunities. But here's the reality. Most people's CPA, they don't have their balance sheet. They don't have a personal balance sheet for that client. Most advisors, they don't have the tax return. They're not looking over the tax return every year. When you just overlay those two things, there's real opportunity that's uncovered. That's our process for finding tax opportunities. Now, once we've done that, how do we actually continue that year by year by year? That's where the annual tax planning meeting has to kick in. The fall tax planning meeting in the tax year we're working on is crucial to clean this up. We're able to get the CPA on the same page with us. We're partnering with them to make sure that we have optimized all tax savings opportunities available to you. Now, I think that really helps point to truth number three. When there's no balance sheet, it's unclear what the biggest wealth opportunity is But we know for our clients, it's either their equity compensation or it's equity in the business they own. Not only is their biggest wealth building opportunity, it often can be their biggest tax problem too. There's RSUs, stock options, there's profit sharing, dividends from business interests, 500,000 plus a year in income. These aren't small line items. They represent a majority of your real wealth building potential. Now, most people at this level, they've never had a real plan for any of these things. The equity comp vests, it hits the account. The business sells, cash hits the account. Then it gets managed in the same way that everything else gets managed, which is to say, not strategically. We see this especially pop up when you're engaged in an investment management relationship. Your advisor is focused purely on investment management portfolios, not the whole picture planning. And that is where these areas become an afterthought. We can't manage this in isolation. This has to be done as a part of the overall plan. By the way, if you're watching this and you're recognizing your own financial picture in any of what we've covered, that's exactly the conversation that we have every single day. If you'd like us to take a look at your situation, there's a link in the description below. Now, let's talk about truth number 4. The standard financial advice that you've been following was built for someone making a fraction of what you make. Max out your 401k, diversify your portfolio, have an emergency fund. That advice isn't wrong, but it's calibrated for someone making far less. 500,000 plus year of income. You've outgrown that framework. Investment vehicles are different. The tax dynamics are different. The overall wealth opportunities are just different. And the problem is no one told you outgrew that. A great example on the wealth side of opportunities that become available to you are things like the Mega Backdoor Roth and cash balance plans and direct indexing and donor advised funds. These are examples of different investment strategies and wealth building strategies and tax strategies for that matter that we are looking at for folks in this situation. Frankly, most advisors out there, they couldn't tell you how a Mega Backdoor Roth works or how a cash balance plan could save you a ton in taxes. That doesn't make them bad. That just makes them built to serve a different demographic than your situation. That tees up truth number 5. The biggest risk for your wealth right now, it's not the market, it's complexity without coordination. The market risk that gets all the attention, but the real wealth destroyer at your income level is much quieter. It's the tax bill that never got optimized. It's the equity comp that vested without a plan. It's the estate that was structured incorrectly, or the business and personal finances that never were looked at together. And none of that shows up on a quarterly statement. So how do we get our clients into a more integrated and synergistic and frankly, the right level of planning that they need for their situation? First and foremost, it starts with the goals. We have to get really clear on what they're trying to accomplish. Most people have built a financial plan where that clarity is not there. Then we're able to build out the path, the actual plan of how we're going to do this. And we execute that because execution is almost always the gap. We execute that through 3 meetings a year. We find that rhythm works really, really well for busy folks. It's enough to keep our eye on the ball, but not so much that it takes away from the busyness and focus of their work. Now, in practice, looks like this. We're meeting at the beginning of the year. We're having a wealth strategy discussion every single year. We're setting that year up for success. And we're meeting in the summer on planning and priorities, such as business is selling, equity comp is vesting, they're having an issue personally that's affecting their financial situation, whatever it is they want to talk about. And then the fall tax meeting, I mentioned that earlier. It is so critical. It's one of the biggest opportunities that everyone in your situation has. It's got to be done this year. We can't try in January to fix tax opportunities that we could have taken advantage of in October. We couple that with year-round access. They're talking to us for 10 minutes. We're calling them for 10 minutes, able to just keep the dynamic relationship going without, again, getting in the way of their really busy life. This is a powerful framework that allows us to serve our clients differently than the way this industry has been built, which is more often the once a year meeting, call me if you need something kind of dynamic. Here's what I want to leave you with. Making $500,000 a year, it's not a financial strategy. It's income. And income without a strategy is just a bigger version of the same problem everyone else has. There's money coming in, complexity building up, and there's no one looking at that whole picture. You've built something real. The question is whether your financial strategy is built to match that. And if it isn't, it's not a small problem. At your income level, that's the most expensive problem you have. Now, everything we've covered today comes down to that one thing in practice, that structural and execution gap that I've pressed on. Now, there's 5 mistakes that we often see come from this. We're going to break down exactly what those are and how to fix them in our next video. So I'll see you there.